You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I will take advantage of those 3 minutes, President Thomas. Good afternoon. So wanted to start off the operations report, giving you all a rundown of the what we call the operations dashboard. And I shared this the External Affairs Committee meeting, a couple of meetings back. Just so if you guys will bear with me, apologies for the small prints. Just wanted to trying to capture a lot of information in a small area, but really just to orient you, if you take a look at the top left of the first slide, you're going to see service requests, active, and then open work orders. So service requests are what are issued through customer service. So we kind of differentiate between what comes in generally from a customer through a phone call or somebody coming into the office to tell us something and ask for information. And then a work order is usually generated internally. You know, does a treatment operator need a mechanic to fix a pump? And so this is from March 29th of last month, and this is a snapshot. So you'll see kind of there's different tabs for each of the bottom items, and then you'll see the screen or the dashboard will change as you look at the different information. So you can kind of right off the bat, you'll see, you know, on the 29th, there were 6 active service requests, meaning there could have been some that were closed. And then there were 18 open work orders. And so then right below that, you look at the pie chart and it'll show you there were 31 closed service requests in relation to those 6 open. And then also on work orders, so these are internally generated work requests, there were 46 closed as in comparison to 18 open. And then right below that, so on the bottom left tab, you can see that that is a bar chart of closed service requests by category. So then you can mine the information. Was it a check for a leak? Was it a check meter function? Miscellaneous, what have you. And then if you look on the bottom right, you can look at work orders by crew. So that green bar chart or bar graph there is all the different crews and the number of work orders that they completed. And so there, as we look at the different pages for the dashboard, you'll see that the information changes. So the second tab is service requests by category. So then you have this purplish bar graph, and you can look at the different categories of service requests. Was it a check for leak? Was it a check pressure? Was it a dirty water complaint? What have you? And so that's really kind of what the dashboard allows us to do. Look at work orders by month. And leak checks specifically, we can drill into that. And we can also then as you scroll through the different components of the dashboard, you see that the map starts to change. And what you generate is the heat map associated with service requests for the different service areas. And so in this case, you see, I believe this is, can't really see it. I've fallen into this world where now I need either like 3 pairs of glasses, or I have to take the glasses off and then I have to put them, you know what I mean? So yeah, so Jenny Lind, right? So you can see the bright yellow, white is where there's a lot of work and there's a heck of a lot going on. And so I didn't want to dive too far into explaining all the parameters. You guys have the different screen captures, but you can see that there's a heat map for each service area. And then there's also a bar or a pie chart of USAs based on service area, because these take up an inordinate amount of time. We have a lot of subcontractors from PG&E that just, I'll get an email and it says, hey, this is Billy from FG3. We need your maps of your Ebbets Pass water system, just like that. And so it takes a lot of work to get, you know, to finally drill into who do you represent? What's your project?
Well, they're so active right now, like in LaFontaine and all around. I mean, those guys that are renting my property, you know, I can't imagine that you guys aren't just inundated with.
Exactly, right. And so this pie chart illustrates that. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Yes.
Damon, on the sheet prior to the heat one,
Yeah.
it's like asterisk, what are those? Kind of the same thing as the heat.
Let's see here.
I think page 4.
The The exclamation point,
Yeah.
or it was trying to pull the data as I was taking the screenshot. So it was like, stand by, we need to pull the data. The computer is saying that, and I didn't give it enough time because I was slacking. So normally what you'll see is like when I pull up my computer screen, that red exclamation point kind of highlight on the map will go away.
Oh, and then you'll see the heat.
Yeah, and then you just see the clean and clear heat map. Yeah, and you can, you know, with our work order system, it's map based. So then I can zoom into that kind of real time. I can zoom into the streets. I can turn it on to a satellite layer. I can topo it. I can change how I want to see the information because it's a Google Earth layer with our work order software interlaid over the top of it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So it is really helpful in providing all of us, folks in the field and in the office, with an understanding of what's happening when and what's happening month over month. And the goal is we're still in this state, particularly in Rancho, of just really trying to get ahead of repairing all the leaks and replacing the services. But the goal is to get to a point where we can use this information to really provide us with a tangible direction on what the work efforts would be. And incidentally, the heat map is what helped inform the initial Kirby Gabor Garner service lateral replacement project, which is a contractor completed project that then allowed us to understand what the costs were associated with service lateral replacement to create a utility crew who does nothing currently than replace service
And
laterals.
we did that several years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been keeping this, we've had this information for quite some time.
That's right.
To keep track.
Right, and one of the additions that we're working on now is with the work orders completed by that utility crew is we actually will change the color of the service lines. So as we work through a service area, we can at a glance see brand new service lines versus old service lines, right?
I have a question. I don't want to get off on a sidetrack. I don't want to get, but all these work orders go through customer service,
The service requests do,
service request,
yes.
but not the location that.
USA, so yeah, USAs are automatically brought
That
in.
goes through US. Okay.
Yeah, they're automatically brought into the system.
But I'm curious, and this is where I don't want to get carried away here, Francisco, but I thought you were critical of us not keeping track of this. What's different about this? Because you mentioned something about customer service not knowing where the calls were. It seems like, at least in this regard, they kind of do have.
You know, we didn't know we had the system until 3 weeks ago. Customer service has
Okay, well,
been,
this was like earlier today you were talking.
customer service did a presentation yesterday about the call volume, and it's been the same report consistently with the graphs and the log. And it's been a follow-up question that comes up. Can you tell us the classification of the calls that you're getting? Well, we were trying to work on it from short staff, so we had to let it go for a while. But we may be able to, now that we're more fully staffed, we're trying to get, so I don't know what kind of service sort of process they have in customer service. I can see what kind of capabilities the data has by virtue of the data elements. You can reverse engineer it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
Seems,
I don't see the same thing on the customer service side with only 43 calls per day.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did acknowledge payments in the state earlier too. I think we all agree that
It's pretty good.
what they've done here is what we've been asking for. It's very helpful to understand the trends in where we're.
okay, but there's still a little gap on the customer service
Yeah.
side. Okay, all right, that's all I wanted to, I don't want to go too far.
Fast.
Yeah, and hats off to them because they're actively involved.
You got some Excel guru that.
You know what?
It's a program.
It's,
We feel really lucky to be working with the folks we're working with.
yeah.
Yes, they-
Good stuff.
You know, most folks give you a black box to work in, and they say you have to fit your operational request within what we provide you with.
Right.
And these folks do a great job of saying, oh, well, let's see if we can get that for you. And so
What is his program?
this is
MMS.
mobile MMS, it's WebSoft, so it's they're a small company based out of Davis, but the folks that we work with are in Plymouth. So they can be here. We meet with them monthly and they work really closely with us. Yeah.
I want to jump in here and defend, not that she needs any defense, but Kelly R. Gave a report yesterday to the External Relations Committee that she is fully staffed now. And, you know, if you look back over the last, long as I can remember, we've been dealing with this insane situation with the radio read meters. The fact that it's not coordinating with Tyler and there's all sorts of consternation associated with that. And Kelly R is this point person for doing that. You know, just hang on. We'll get you the information that you're wanting. But I for one don't want to beat up anybody that's trying as hard as they can right now. We'll get there. Promise.
Well, yeah, and I can tell everybody in terms of the operational customer service relationship, Kelly R and her team, they do a fabulous job working with our staff. And there is a constant dialogue between operations and customer service, and they're really effective in getting our folks to the spot where we need to be to make the repair.
President Thomas. Kelly reported out that
Nobody else can hear this, and we really should stay on the agenda.
Yeah,
I think
this
we're
is
off.
not even public comment.
So,
All right. So kind of service line repair. This happened on a Sunday. So this would be what somebody would find driving down the street on a Sunday on Pardini would call the office. This would go to the answering service, which would then call our on-call staff. And if you all recall, we have one person on call for the entire district, 24/7, 365. And so then this person either finds a crew or finds a team and participates in the repair. So this is Sunday afternoon repair on Pardini. This is a service line. This is not a water main. So you can understand how much pressure is there between Sparrock and Baldwin on Pardini there.
Must have been pretty hard to figure out where it was leaking.
Right? Yeah. That's kind of like a groaner. You come around the corner in your truck and you just groan.
Where's Pardini?
It's at the lower end of the Jenny Lind system towards the town of Jenny Lind between Baldwin, which is a main thoroughfare, and Sparrock.
We can point to Jeff. It's a failure on your part.
I get lost out there still.
I just continue to stick with the common theme of starting with ranchos, service line replacements, leak repairs. So this is another service line replacement. Now this is the distribution crew highlighting these replacements. So this is one of those days where the crew goes out to make a repair and they identify, you know what, we can just shoot over the main's close. Let's get to the main and let's replace it. And they do it as well. So we have kind of a double barrel approach to service line replacements. And you can kind of see the backfill here. I don't know where all this animation happened, but it's showing up in my PowerPoints these days. So I need a tutorial on how to eliminate animation. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So here we go. 2-inch main repair on driver. So you can kind of see the image on the left. It wasn't a rainy day that day, but you can see how much water's on the street, right? And then guys do a great job of listening, locating. So you can see the small square on the right full of water. And then obviously it's kind of hard to see in the image on the right, but the 2-inch line that is feeding a service line just plumb broke off. The reducer, it's a welded, plastic welded reduction, and it just broke off the 2-inch main, which caused the line break. And so that's what the 2-inch looked like that was originally in the ground. It had 2 services coming off of it with corp stops. One of them just flat broke off. And so our guys installed Schedule 80 with brass and repaired that and put it back in service. Here's Baldwin Road service line replacement. So the gap vacs in action with the air compressor. Some of the folks were on the tour. This is more of the same of what you saw on the tour. Because our crew's getting out there, getting after it, exposing the service line and replacing the whole thing. So they just do a great job. Image on the left, you can see the old service line sitting there on the street with about 4 full circle clamps on it. And then the temporary patch in the image on the right. And something that Mike Rogers and I were talking about earlier, Hart Vixen and Silver Rapids Road, there's a ton of water there. That's groundwater. So we did have a patch there with temporary asphalt, and that groundwater was pumping out of the street so much that it was causing that temporary asphalt to just be pushed out of the trench when folks would stop. There's a stop sign there. So they stop and they accelerate, pushing all these rocks out of the trench. So we went in and we paved it. And so if folks can listen to this, can understand that that water that's continuing to come out is not because of a CCWD leak, unless there's one about 800 feet away potentially.
It's coming down the trench.
Right, exactly.
It's
So-
groundwater that's coming down the trench.
Right, so just trying to, if there's anybody listening, eliminate any perception that there's a continual leak at that intersection that we aren't repairing. That's groundwater. And so moving on. So this is an interesting one. Now we're up in Evans Pass. We have a water line on what's called Waterline Road, Sawmill up to Big Trees. And then off of that, we have a 6-inch main that comes off that, which is cross country that feeds the tank to the Big Trees State Park. And this is an air relief valve that was broken that the guys had to replace. And it just really kind of the theme of these pictures are to highlight the location. So there's the ARV and there's where the guys are in the image on the right. It's kind of a lonely place when you think of having to fix a 6-inch water main out in the forest. So your resources are taxed at that point in time. And so here's some of the infrastructure that CCWD has when you think about, capital improvements.
Well, and safety too.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole host of things right here. These images. Yeah, absolutely right. Gotcha. So PRV repairs. So this is PRV 1 on Reach 1. So a little bit difficult to see the image on the left. The folks are dewatering the PRV. So there's a sump pump down there. They're pumping all the water out. And then the image on the right, they've taken the bonnet off the top of the pressure reducing valve. And they're looking inside and wondering why the thing's not operating properly. And it's full of rocks. So it could be full of rocks from the construction project, could be full of rocks from a main break at some point in time somewhere. Any number of ways the rocks could have gotten in there, but obviously rocks need to be taken out of water systems when we find them. So clean that PRV out and we're good to go, back in action. More of the same. So here's you can kind of see what the valve itself looks like in the image on the right. And that center disc, I forget what that's called.
Any gold in them there, Ron?
You know what? It would be pretty cool if it was. We wouldn't hear about it though. Unless it was going to the Employee Appreciation Day Fund. So more rocks in the close up in the image on the left. And then there you go. So this is actually a different PRV. So this PRV is in Forest Meadows, but more of the same. So really kind of the theme of this is thankfully right now our folks that are up on the pass have the ability and the opportunity to do PRV maintenance and find things like this. And sometimes it's because, there's an issue with one of them. They need to dig into it and see what's going on, kind of like this PRV that had some control lines with fittings that are breaking and they're being replaced. But also, sometimes you don't find it until you get there and you see what's going on. And so eliminating leaks and getting to the point where you can actually maintain the distribution system is a fulfilling endeavor, and we can't get there soon enough, and we're going to keep working to do so. Kind of a poorly stretched image by yours truly on the right, but trying to show you kind of where that fitting would sit on that control valve. It's a small pilot control line that road that the guys replaced. More pictures of that small pressure reducing valve and the control pilots that the guys replaced. Snow removal in March. Here's the White Pines barn image on the left, the approach driveway to the barn, I believe, in the image on the right. Get trees out of the way. We had some folks on standby in the month of March for snow removal. We had, and we actually, that will carry through into April as well, actually. But nothing like we had in 22, 23. So this is a really cool one. So FEMA funded replacement project, Valley Springs. We have the 50+ acres there on Hogan Dam Road. The 22-23 atmospheric river storms just ripped the fence out, ripped all the stream crossing, the creek crossing, fencing out, all gone. So FEMA paid us to replace it all. About right around 2,000 linear feet of fencing was replaced. And so first thing the collection or the construction crew does is find a welder in the scrap back here behind the shop and fix it and put it to use. So that's the image of the guys grabbing the welder on the left and then putting it into action in the picture on the right. Here's the first purchase of material. And then one of the creek crossings there on the property. And then just building fence. They did a fabulous job.
They did. I was alerted to this project. I was wondering why in the hell are we refencing that 50 acres down there? And I went
Yeah.
down, and took a look at it. I was gonna ask you about it today. I'm glad, and then I'm so glad I saw it in.
Because,
It is an awesome looking fence though.
yeah, the
Those
flood
creek
destroyed it and FEMA paid us to put it back.
The creek crossings are phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, can't say enough good things about all of our folks here at CCWD. And it's really, really beneficial when you can actually visually see the proof right here with a crew that actually is, I mean, talk about being in the public eye for like a couple weeks. You know, CCWD right there in the middle of the big Y, building fence, and they did a great job. And hopefully, when folks drive by,
The big why, it's like, yeah, why is that there?
Well,
Good
you know.
explanation of that whole area. Why are there two bridges that go underwater? Why is there?
Yeah,
A lot
well,
of whys.
there's a lot to unpack there, Director.
Yeah.
Got that.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Look at that image on the left, though, how straight that is. I mean, what the heck?
I need fence done.
Yeah.
Hey, just curious, before we get to Cindy's truck, do we have
Oh,
that?
I see it, there it is.
Is that property still leased?
It is, the lease is up at the end of the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I get inquiries.
September, yeah, September.
Okay.
Yes, the bucket truck in action in Wallace. So this tree was, it's really right at our clear well, right at our treatment plant, and you can see the comms, dish on the right. So, Jared Devich, our electrician, he's the bucket truck, whisperer.
That you?
Gets in the bucket truck and trims that tree. Actually, also, Pat, our construction maintenance manager, and myself were with Jared at E-Tank in New Hogan Lake Estates. And we were helping him replace an AMI antenna on the top of that tank, and he can operate that boom like something else, man. It's really, you know, why carry a bunch of tools in your backpack when you can just grab your bucket truck and set your tools exactly where you need them? I was like, yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well done. You know, so hats off to him.
So who
Tom
was
reestablished.
Wish I had.
operating?
Jared Devich, our electrician. He does a great job with that truck. And we're putting that thing to use all the time. And then more electrical magic, constructing a panel for a chopper pump. If you guys ever are bored and you want to get on YouTube and you want to look up a Vaughn's chopper pump, they have a clear basin and they'll throw like golf balls in there or tennis shoes, and this pump will just eat it all up. It's a sewage pump. So a couple years back, we bought a few of them for Arnold's, and they do a fabulous job. And so we're going to deploy one in Copperopolis at Lift Station 17. So it required a new panel construction. So that's what this work was for. So before I close, I wanted to highlight the lead service line requirement. I'm not sure if y'all are in the loop.
Yeah,
Um,
that was my note, one of my notes.
Yeah, so the US EPA, as part of an amendment to the lead and copper rule, is requiring all public water systems complete an inventory of service laterals that are privately owned, the customer side of the service line, in an assessment to determine whether or not there's lead present. And so the requirement for this is October of 2024.
October 14th.
Yeah.
How would we know if it's on the customer side of the line, whether or not there's lead?
Property line.
Well, so that's a great question. And so that's, you know, that's been part of the conversation for the last couple of years as this rule It's kind of made its way through.
We're with the
fence.
government and we're here to help you. Can we come on your property?
Exactly right. Exactly right. So we have a couple tools at our disposal. One is we can take advantage of the fact that after 1986, and this is recognized in the lead and copper rule, lead was not used in service lateral appurtenances, fittings. There's a tiny amount of lead in brass beyond that until like 2008 or 9. But for most intents and purposes, what they're concerned about is gone after 1986. And we can kind of eliminate any home constructed after 1986. So we're left with this batch of homes constructed prior to, there's about 19,000 in Calaveras County. So we can take that batch, and we've shared that with our neighbors.
19,000 that are prior.
Right. And we've shared that information
You
with our
said, you
neighbors.
said Calaveras County, so not necessarily all within our,
Correct.
okay.
Yep. And so, CPUD has that information now, UPUD, folks have that information. And so the next step for us is to push that into MMS so we can see where they all live within our service area. And then we can take all of the images that were pulled from the AMI project and attempt to see if there's any inkling of a service line. Kevin and I have looked at a bunch and there's really nothing there. But we can also dig down on the meter box side and assess what the condition is and what the service line is made out of. Now, you all understand, I mean, we live in Calaveras County, service lines can be half a mile long here, and they can be made out of 5 or 6 different things. And so really, the rub within the state, and the state has been pushing hard against the feds and asking for a time extension through Aqua for the implementation of this requirement to give everybody more time to understand what the heck is going on. But one of the other components of the inventory is you can basically make a determination on what the service line is. You can say it's lead, or it's non-lead, or it's unknown. And we have to submit that report by October 14th. And our goal isn't to submit, 5,000 we don't knows, but there's definitely going to be some unknowns.
So the EPA, a government agency, has the same information. They have the same ability to contact those same landowners, but they're pushing it off on the
That's-
local water district because makes no sense.
Who already know what our service lines are. We know our conditions
Yeah.
per meter. So we have that information. But now they want to know, well, what does the customer have? Well, go ask them.
Yeah.
What's their,
Here's the list of who they are.
what's their anticipated outcome?
They want to be able to really create a program to eliminate lead service laterals throughout the nation entirely. So
They're gonna fund that.
we'll see, right?
No, I mean, I think of Valley Springs PUD,
Yeah, no, I hear
you know,
you.
good lord.
Right.
Damon, do the service lines, there's one per customer, or sometimes there's several houses connected to the one?
So there's generally one per customer. There could be one from us to a manifold of water meters. And then but like I said, we should have an understanding. We, for the most part, have an understanding of what those are. But there could be a manifold, but there's also, there could be, and I'll have to ask customer service about the presence of irrigation meters. They generally have a time frame associated with them. But I think there's some older ones that may still be there.
Is this regulation affecting irrigation lines as well?
Every line, even fire related lines. So if there's what you would call most fire lines are going to be bigger than what a service lateral would be anyway. But yes. And they have talked about, there's nothing in detail, but they have talked about funding mechanisms to ensure that their requested program or the program they're requiring is implemented effectively. We'll see. But currently, folks within our state are scrambling to identify these service laterals. But, I've not to beat the same drum too often, but there are different components of that initial inventory, and one of those is we don't know. But we have a general idea where, even in homes constructed prior to 86, within the district, we have a general idea of where if there was any potential for a privately owned service line to have lead, we kind of understand where those would be. And you would too. Think about where the oldest homes would be within this county. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. the objective here is to identify where the lead might be because it's going to cause people to get sick. So there has to be some sloughing off of the lead as the water's going through. Seems to me that as sophisticated as our technology has become, can't you just free flow a hydrant up at the house and send it off to a lab and say, aha, there's lead in this water, or just so 1 part per billion or something.
It's really, thanks for that question.
That
It
might
kind
be
of tees up a really interesting thing that Michael and I were discussing at the beginning of the week is that our AMI company Mueller also has an infrastructure wing that is really kind of starting to focus on a smart distribution system. So they have pressure monitoring equipment for fire hydrants and whatnot, all kinds of different things. But they also,
They're the ones lobbying the EPA for rules like this.
you never know, because what I'm going to tell you is going to raise your eyebrows a little bit.
Yeah.
But they have a program where they can actually listen to your system and determine what the service lines are made out of. So they can determine how they can basically correlate lead in a service line. So they can go to the home, they can go to the meter in the main, and they can listen, and basically it's like a vibrational understanding of metals vibrate at different frequencies, and they can tell you if there's lead there. And so they are approved in the state of Colorado. They're approved in multiple states throughout the nation. They're not approved yet in California, and they've approached us about working with us so they could develop the study to show the proof to get the approval for the state. And so this would, obviously be on their dime.
And this, my friend, is how laws are made in California and in the United States. A company.
There it was. Yeah. So, right. So they've done this in Ohio. They've done this in other states. And
How much are they gonna pay you?
I don't know. I wouldn't think anything. I would think that we would gather the information, we would benefit from the information.
And this is the tip of an iceberg that
Yeah.
we'll definitely be bringing this back as its own agendized item to get more into the
I
detail.
did real quick, the information that you say that there's 19,000 homes that were pre 1986. I'm sure we're sharing all that information at our utility working group.
That's actually where,
So
yep,
these smaller agencies aren't gonna have to go look for that by themselves.
that's correct. Yep. And that's why Craig Canepa, our senior electrician, is so excited. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The best thing is
Good
the
report.
staple's in the right corner. Good
Oh,
job.
What was that number, 19,000?
19,000.
45,000 people in the county, 19,000, 2.2 people per house, that's almost 42,000 citizens. I'm suspicious at that 19,000 number.
There were a lot more rooftops than there are 2.2 people per, it's not a 2.2, I don't think is the right number. Maybe just like the Evans Pass service area, 10,000 rooftops and
Well, no,
it's not full-time.
I had one question, Damon. Sorry.
Oh.
Up in West Point, you have bad elf training?
So a bad elf is a GIS device. There's devices that we used to use called Trimbles. And it's really, it's a geolocator. So it's got I've come to understand that it's a really terrible name, but this geolocator is called a bad elf. And so what we're working on with the bad elf is was through mobile MMS, we're trying to get staff so when they fix a water main or when they install something, they can geolocate it. And it'll give you pipe depth, it'll give you dimensions, and it'll give you location within centimeters. And it's been kind of tough for our folks to learn. It's a tough new system to learn. So we've had a couple different trainings, and we're actually going to have another one next month.
Are we gonna rename it?
We can call it something different. We can actually give it a name like Jeff. Yeah, there we go.
Make it.
Bad elf.
Perfect. Yeah.
Like what, Jeff?
So the bad L. Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, moving on, do you have any questions on,
You look at that question you want
Yeah.
to put.
go ahead.
Wasn't trying to slam Kelly R. I was pointing out that as an oversight group, I was expecting those kinds of questions or those kinds of solutions to be offered after the third or fourth time that the same request has been made. She's been asked before, can we get an idea of what kind of calls we're getting? The same answer has come back. Short staff, I'll get to it. And my sense was if me in her shoes, I'd have put together a little pad of paper and manually reported just to give the board the answer they're looking for. I don't see that kind of activism on the board. There seems to be a reticence about criticizing somebody or calling somebody up short or perhaps being misperceived as beating on somebody. We're all adults here. We all make mistakes. When somebody else sees them and points it out to you, you thank them and say, I'll try not to do the same thing again. I personally would not come to my management with the same answer to the same question more than once. That's me. Thank you.
We got exactly that kind of
Okay.
information yesterday.
Very, very briefly, I'm not gonna,
Little.
try not to wade in too deeply on that, but we're not developing a tracking tool to categorize every single call. It's not that we don't have staff for it, it's that it doesn't, we have a pretty good general idea of when we have a high call volume for certain types of calls and how we respond to those things. So I don't think any of this should be put on Kelly's shoulders. You know, that's just the direction that we've decided to go, and we've had those discussions at the External Relations Committee meetings as well. So that's not, I don't want to portray that as, or for that to be portrayed as something that she hasn't delivered on. That's not the direction we're going in a different direction. So I just wanted to lay that out.
Yes, go ahead.
Mike Castro. In his report, there was commentary about a West Point shop fire that was caused by a contractor. I was curious, damage that was done, how it was compensated for.
Thank you, because I forgot to ask on
Yeah,
that. I
so
brought it
we're
up
working with the
before.
contractor still to account for the damage and make sure that we're made whole. Yeah.
I just saw a payment in the consent agenda, so I was wondering, was the payment discounted at all for any damage or? is it
No,
gonna
we're
be
not.
through Insurance?
We're
Probably not something
working
we
with the
have to-
contractor to make sure we address that issue. I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So one more
Michael.
comment.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Mike Rogers again, spring. Once again, Damon,
Damon, once again, thanks for putting that together. I think it is significant progress. You know, as I've indicated in the past, you know, we're interested in things that have really a financial impact on the district. And when I look at an operations report that shows the trend month over month, I guess my question is, do you have that data going very far back, like where you can do year over year analysis?
Not yet.
Okay.
So it's kind of a complicated answer to an easy question, but we started the dashboard just a couple months ago, but I can actually create queries based on different requests. So if I want to look at work orders for mechanics, I can year over year review that work. Yes. So I can, but it's just not, it's not fast food. Right? Yeah.
You're getting there. Okay, good. Because that, you know, when you start looking at year over year, as we make these investments and all the capital projects, you know, that return on investment, I would like to think is a reduction in the number of man hours going out fixing leaks and things like that. Now I realize there are things that just are going to happen because of the age of the infrastructure. But as we make these improvements, the other thing, I guess the other, you know, metric would be the yield, you know, as we see the leaks and so on, we know what water is being treated and we know what we're billing for water, therefore we can calculate yield. And so if your benchmark is 95%, 98%, I'd like to think maybe 99 would be our yield. We know maybe that's not realistic, but whatever the number is, that has a financial impact. So my question would be, as you aggregate this data, can you turn it over to finance and then have them calculate what that return might be? That reduction in man hours clearly has an impact, or an increase in man hours, if that were the case. It's the same thing with yield. There's water that's being lost that isn't being built, right? So are we measuring that? Thank you.
That was one of the objectives that we sought in having the new meters that we paid for. That gives us a tool that we can use to identify that. I mean, it identify it more accurately,
Okay.
the water loss.
Reported that out to date anywhere yet? Or
No.
We're not, but we're making progress. We're getting
Yes,
there.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Damon.